Okay, we are recording. All right, as always, I'm Brian Kynes, the creator of the Tales of Ulran storyline and game setting. We use Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition to play through the game and tell our story. And the folks around me, although there's only two, there's going to be some more in a few minutes, help me write it one gaming session at a time. To start out with, over here to my side is Sean. He'll be playing several different interesting roles tonight. We will see how this all goes. We'll leave it to be a surprise for folks. And then down below us is Jeremy Keaton, as always. And we'll be playing Merc, which is piloting Brahmas, the celestial construct. Now, Heather and Kara are out doing some things and will not be joining us for this week or next week's adventures. So, with their permission, Sean has decided to play through, at least in combat situations, Tanemeh's character. We'll all kind of decide how we think they would act and do things. And I've already counseled with Heather and Kara on a couple story plot line things, and I think we're going to do them some justice. And then Jeremy is going to be taking on Silowin's character stuff. We have a custom class for her, which is the Skylancer, and Jeremy has some experience running something similar to that too. So we're going to miss stuff. It's going to be interesting, but whereas we haven't got to crack our knuckles and get nasty with some shit here in a couple episodes, they're going to have their hands full tonight. It's going to be some scrapping, possibly. Depends. They can all just say, Brian, we wanted to get together today so we can all go to sleep. We're just going to sleep through the night and not do a thing. They have control of it. Let's hope something more exciting than that happens. Okay. So Alex and Hunter will be the only two others joining us here in a little bit, and we'll kind of get them clued in as we go. I may even pause the video, discuss some things with them, then restart once they join. Okay. So let's go ahead and go back to New Gemdar. I'm going to start with you, Jeremy. You had just left Tavastar's shop. Okay. You had left. Did you have you had some of those frostworm scales, and you gave him that, and you paid, well, you didn't pay him actually. You probably had planned on donating something after it was created. And you wanted a tower shield built. And the only way that Tavastar builds things for people nowadays is to help them do some good with their lives and help them erase and wash the blood off of their existence. He is a person that you can just tell has a lot of very heavy burdens on his shoulders. And the work that he does, almost you would gather, is to save his soul in a way. Does that make sense, Jeremy? Yeah, it's a very strange thing. Caliban was interested in some things as well, but there was just something about Caliban that was just a little bit too forward, a little bit too cocky, holding on his thing, and he said, I don't know if I have anything here for you personally. But, there's always a chance he could go back and maybe find something later. There's weighted shackles that were in there on the wall that would help develop his strength, were a thing he was looking at. Once you guys leave, you see Bastille still over, standing in an alley to the side of the warrior's altar there, and he is talking to Dorbach, the short halfling, or as you guys know him as the Spider. Okay, and the two don't seem to be really in a heated conversation, but it seems sincere because the two are standing very close to one another. And they hushed a little bit when you guys left the shop and walked back out into the alley, Jeremy. As that's happening, Bastille gives him a hand motion and walks away from him, and with a big shit-eating grin on his face, the halfling or the Spider goes, "That's perfectly fine. Go ahead and take your time. I'll be right here. No hurry, no worries or anything. It's just our lives. It's not like it's a big deal or anything." And he's saying it kind of loud over Bastille's shoulder so you all can hear what's being said. Okay, Dorbach's being ornery shit. As Bastille walks towards you, Jeremy, and walks towards Caliban. And he seems to have a look on his face as if something has bothered him. Now, you know from Dane's character, he usually wears a scarf at least around the bottom of his chin and is hooded. He is visibly, from the creases in between of his eyebrows and just the puzzled look on his face after whatever conversation he's had. He has issue with something right now, and you're not quite sure what. As he walks up, he approaches you. He doesn't really know Caliban very well, Jeremy. And he approaches you, and he looks back over his shoulder kind of halfway, kind of soap opera-like, with the face going in and out, looks back up into the eyes of Brahmas and says, if the ship leaves tomorrow, I'll be there and I'll be on it. I have some things I have to take care of. It turns out that I can't just leave town and duties don't just pile up all over the place around me. So I have a handful of things to take care of. I will be joining you all, and I will be on that ship in the morning. And he says, are there any loose ends you need me to follow up on before we head out, Merc, or are you good?
Take care of the things that you need. We'll see you in the morning.
Fair enough. And he looks over at Caliban, and he points, and he looks at me and says, stay out of trouble. Semi-sarcastically. Caliban just kind of replies, it's like, trouble needs to stay out of my way. As long as that happens, I don't see there being any problems until tomorrow morning. With a very confident look, as he crosses his arms and stares, looking tough at Bastille as he walks away back into the alley. And as he does, Dorbach joins at the hip, looks back over his shoulder at us, and gives a sarcastic ta-ta, a wave as the two walk on into the alleyway. With that, we're going to say it's probably about 6:30-ish in game. So the sun is starting to lower, but it's not dark outside yet. You still have about an hour and a half of something light until the dusk starts falling. You know that everyone's going to crash in their respective areas tonight once everything's said and done. Where particularly were you headed once you got done here, Jeremy? Did you have a plan, or you want me to just create something for you?
I just planned on going back to the old warehouse and starting to look into the books in Promise's library.
Okay. And was there some conversation last time about Bastille was going to possibly try to find you a place that wasn't a cellar? Remember that? He was like, this is a person, and he's not been treating himself like one since he was breathing his own air. And it's time we start giving him something else. So that might even be something that Bastille's working on. You don't know. But it was a very kind gesture from him, if you recall that. Sade. We'll kind of keep yours, we'll kind of keep it hush-hush for now, but I do want to go over a couple things with you to get you to where we're headed. Okay? You have been wanting to go somewhere and test out this crossbow. Okay? And just see what these effects are. I don't remember if you've identified it or had it identified, but I think there was a description that went with it. Now, refresh our memories. Who did the upgrade on the crossbow for you? You are muted, sir.
Is that little girl at Mandarin shop?
Ember?
Yeah.
Now, she took it somewhere. She wouldn't have done that herself.
Yeah.
She took
She took it somewhere. I forget where you said she took it, but
okay. It's a place called the Devil's Own.
The Devil's Own?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And it is owned by 3 tieflings that do chanting and things of that nature and disenchant things. The one of them, Jeremy is very familiar with, which he's the one that got possessed by, it's a long story, his name's Iraden. Iraden. And one of the reasons why you got such a decent enchantment on your weapon is because he owes Brahmas and the people of the Avian City, he owes his life to them. As Iridan was played by another friend of mine, one friend of mine's son, Sean, and he was a tiefling warlock. And as we were going to the Avian City with Brahmas on that adventure we keep referencing all the time, Jeremy, there was a ancient passageway that would take you from the very bottom of the Mountain of Tears to the Avian City. But they had been blocked from the other side because during that battle and war, evil spirits and all kinds of wizards and shit were trying to use that portal device to get to the Avian City and attack it. So they had shut it down. So once we met Silowin and saved her from those wyvern cultists from killing her, she mentioned that she has access to these hidden places. Okay. And when we took her there, there was an evil demon spirit in that place, hoping that we would open it so we could jump into one of our bodies and we'd take it to the Avian City where it could just cause chaos. And it chose Iridan's body. So halfway through the fight, all of a sudden Iridan is possessed by this fucking thing. And Brahmas and Bastille and all the different characters helped save it, took care of him, and things of that nature. So the reason you got such a great enchantment on that is because Iridan owes you a favor. Okay, that's a little backstory on it, just so you have it. Do you have any particular place you would like to go test this weapon out, or what do you think?
Just anywhere with like a firing range or anywhere that's
I tell you
yeah.
what, there's one very interesting place that you could go, and it's in a part of the city that's kind of old that isn't really functioning anymore. I think you had been there a while back. It's the place that Miyasha usually goes to worship the god that she believes in. It's an old outdoors, like a place where plays would be taken. Like has
Amphitheater.
fun.
Okay, yeah.
Remember that spot?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a place where you would kind of feel away from folks, and you know you could go and test fire it on some things there.
Okay.
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 So as you go there, you notice that normally there's some flowers laid down at the feet of the statue on the far end of the place, and that's usually the vibrant dancing spirit angelic statue that Miyasha worships,
Mhm.
and she practices her fighting here. As a matter of fact, there's been many different times where you've been through the city and heard her singing and her dancing and watched her from afar, although she didn't know you were there. Just kind of wondering just exactly who is she and what she's doing. The only flowers that are there now have wilted, and there hasn't been anything fresh put there for several days. That's the first thing that's kind of weird to you.
Okay.
With that, as you head down into this place, you notice that you know that there are several mannequins and old wooden and burlap sack props and things that lay back behind the large concrete stage. It's like an open shed of these kind of things. They are brought out for people that just do practice, to put costumes on. You could set up one of those up against the back large mountain face that acts as the echo chamber to this abandoned place, and you could set something up there and practice shooting at that if you'd like.
Yeah. But before she does that, seeing that the flowers have wilted and whatnot, Sade would go and find some flowers and kind of just
Spruce up.
yes, yeah, do kind of what Nyasha does, kind of as just out of respect, you know. This
Nicely
is a
done,
place
buddy.
where she trained, so
Nice. With that, go ahead and roll me an investigation check, please.
Sade. That'll say that's a Sorry, my phone's coming.
It's all good. And I just want you to know that if we're averaging 5 minutes for every roll, it's going to be a long night. So I'm saying, Sean.
22.
22 is decent.
Yeah.
Looking at the stems and things that were laying there, you have a pretty good idea of what kind of flowers she got, and you know the place that she got them from with that. I will say that they're actually, she plucks them from a ledge on the Endless Satire, where Quill, the satire, looks like Robin Williams, the comedy club. He grows them outside, and in like a flower garden that's around the sides, almost like a stone garden, where it's got a little pond, it's got some stones and shit like that. He has those around the back place of this. She gets them from there. As you go there to get the flowers, it's late afternoon, and there's someone up there, and they're doing humor. They're doing a comedic performance. There's maybe 8 or 9 people in the actual place. And you know that if you go in through the central stage, the indoors part, you walk to the back patio where they have outdoors performances that's kind of walled in with a stone wall so people can't see in. That's where these flowers would be. And as you're walking through, as you're looking around, Quill looks at you for a long moment. And it's Robin Williams, of course, as a satire. And he says, "Hey, you've got a moment? I need to talk."
Sure. It's fine.
Okay. And you are the male version of yourself
Yes.
at this point? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to say enough to where he recognizes who you are, but he'd be like, "Oh, that's a little weird." He kind of smiles as he looks at you. He says, "But teach their own. That's what I say. Gotta have a sense of humor in these times. Am I right?"
Yes, you do.
Actually, he goes, "Listen, I don't mean to change demeanor on you so much. Being bipolar isn't a gift that I'm proud of by any means, but have you seen Miyasha? I'm concerned. When's the last time you spoke with her?"
Gosh, it's been quite a while since the Dwarven Wake. It was the last time I spoke with her.
Has a firm look and kind of cracks little smiles nervously as you're talking, like the wake. Yeah. So here's the thing. It could be my fault. It could be my fault, and God's only know that I was only speaking to her out of sympathy, and we were having a conversation. But she's got this idea in her head that she wants to help me, and I've never asked her for any kind of payment. It's actually quite nice to have her around. She brightens up the place. She's like the child I never got to have. He looks distant for a minute, and he says, "But well, I'm pretty sure that she's went off on an adventure, possibly, and I would have assumed it would have been with some of you all. But you're here, and she's not. So he takes your hand nervously, and he pushes into it a coin pouch. Okay, there's some weight to it. He says, if you find her," he's looking at you. He goes, almost like he's wanting you to say yes, and he's wanting to will you to agree to this, but nervous at the same time. He says, "There's more of this.
Okay.
Don't let her do anything. Don't let her pay for my stupid mistakes. I've had a chance at my life. I'm happy, happy." Says, "But I don't want the burden of ruining another life. Everyone I try to bring in close seems to get further and further away." He says, "That's for you either way, yes or no. And for God's sake, if you've ever met her or know how stubborn she can be, don't ever tell her that I paid you to look after her.
Oh, don't worry, I won't.
Never hear the end of it.
Yes, I know how stubborn she can be. But don't worry, you have my word. I will keep an eye out for her and I will watch over her as much as I can.
Okay. He says, thank you. And he looks around and goes, why are you here exactly?
Oh, just picking some flowers.
Oh, got it. And kind of walks off and starts clapping and laughs. The comedian up there is kind of bombing. They're not doing a really good. And he's like, it's brilliant. Yeah. Oh, dear. He's going up there trying to bring up people and trying to make a little bit of a chaos and help this person out that's having a hard time. So you go, you pick the flowers. Do you head back there to place them?
Yes.
Okay. As you do, I don't know if I want to go that far or not. Yeah, might as well. Okay. So as you go back there and you place the flowers down at the foot of the thing, you're kind of pleased with the way that looks. You feel like you've done your good deed for the day. You know what I'm saying? You got that little kind of pep in your step and things of that nature. Are you going to go ahead and try out the crossbow now?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me, just run me through it, but tell me how many paces back, tell me which abilities of it you're trying to unlock and use, and I'll just kind of walk you through what happens.
Okay, so Shaday's going to set up maybe about 3 or 4 different mannequins at different distance intervals. So I guess she's going to, judging from where she would soon be the front row of the thing, she's going to set one that's about 20 feet back, and then 40, 60, and then possibly, however, the very back of the theater. I don't know how big the theater actually is.
We'll just kind of create. And by the way, when you're grabbing more mannequins and stuff, please roll a perception check with disadvantage.
Perception. That's only an 8.
Okay. You can't help but for a second feel as if you're being watched. It's weird. And then you look around for just a moment. It's with all these faceless mannequins like up around you, and no one else is through here. No one really comes to this district of the city. It's very old and shut down. There are no places. It's too cold. And then you look up at the statue of this person that she worships, and you're like, oh, it's you staring at me. That's what's making me feel like this. Let's get it together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then go ahead and continue with what you're doing.
Okay. So Shaday will set up several targets in about 20 feet, so like 20 foot, 40, 60, 80, however long the thing is. And,
cool.
And she'll set it up in different positions so she can try and shoot like at different angles and try and.
You're actually putting on the first show here in a long time. Good job, bud. Okay, you got all the actors out and all this shit, and you can't help but think about that. So, so the first shots that you're taking, are these going to be close range, long range, or medium?
She's gonna start short range, like the shortest she can possibly shoot, and then eventually do long range, and then
go ahead.
Try and like find angles where she can line up shots and whatnot and stuff.
Okay, so the armor class is going to be just basically a 10 plus a 1d4, 12 for the first one at short range because the crossbow is quite new to you. Now, I told you it was built to resemble Isadora a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It has a black raven motif to it, I guess. Yeah. Motif and motif. Not to Google that later. Know what the fuck the difference is. Don't know. So, with that, are you just trying a basic shot, or are you doing something special? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead and roll me a 1d20 plus your attack modifier. You rolled a 1, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
You did. Okay. Oh. you know that if Isadora was out right now, she'd probably be squawking and laughing at your ass. You just
Mhm,
get this sense that there would be hell to pay for that.
mhm.
As you do, I need you to roll me a 1d6, please.
Okay. So
you're like,
3.
you're like, yes, Brian. Yes, I did. Oh, okay. Let's go. Okay. All right. So a 3.
Mhm.
Okay, and roll me one more d6, please.
2.
Okay. So with that, it was environmental, and it was ice and cold buildup on the
Mhm,
actual device itself. It made your fingers a bit numb, and when you were stringing that first arrow, you didn't knock it quite right.
mhm.
And when you did, it flew out sideways. If there'd have been people 30 foot away from that thing, you'd have speared someone's ass. So you're like, ooh, nothing slapped you and hit you, but you didn't knock that thing really good.
Right.
Um, that's your first shot with the new bow. And does it have a name? Did you name it?
Yes, it does have a name. It's called well, I received it was called Twisted Fate.
Right. Okay. Nice. DM made that was pretty cool, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, moving on. You want to go for this one again? Or you want to back up a little bit?
I
We're
mean,
not doing
I
rounds.
thought about nicknaming it Duncan.
Okay. Just after the
There's a
donut shop, or what is the
no, no,
deal?
no, Duncan. Well, see, it's a kind of a weird reference to a series of unfortunate events. There are the Quagmire triplets. One's
Yeah.
named Isadora, and the other one's named Duncan. So,
Do it. That's awesome, dude. Let's do it.
yeah. So yeah, I kind of nicknamed my crossbow Duncan.
Okay. Duncan
So
doesn't like you right now. Do you need to do something else? You want to try another short one?
yeah, I'll try another. I'll do like a mid-ranged shot.
Okay. That's an unretrievable arrow. I'm going to say when it came off and hit the rocks there, it broke.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's better.
Well,
Uh,
you can do nothing but go up from here, Sean. It's all good, buddy.
right. So that's a. So I actually get a. Shoot, it's a
If you got a
plus.
question, ask it.
So, yeah, yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out. So it's my dexterity modifier plus my proficiency. So that's 4 plus 4. That's 8 plus the +2 from the weapon itself. It's +10 to that. So I'm just going to add +10. So that's a 25.
Very well done. That would have breached and hit pretty close to any area you wanted to hit on that mannequin. So as you sink that arrow in, what were you shooting at there? I'm curious.
Oh, just shooting like in the chest area.
Okay, it sinks in. That has very well made shot. What's next?
Let's
Jeremy.
do.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. In a minute, while me and Sean are doing this, can you check Facebook to see if anyone else is jumping on in a minute, buddy? All right, go ahead, Sean.
And then, yeah, I'm going to try a long range shot.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so that's a little lower than before.
You still, that was, I mean, it's only a 12 to hit it, so.
Yeah, so it's a 16 total to hit.
Okay. You're able to hit in the torso area, lower left around the abs. You didn't hit in the center of the chest on it, but you are able to. Now, one thing you notice about this bow is that it's got a little bit of a kick to it. And the string is thick on it. This thing, for the +2 that it has, this thing's beefy. Okay, now I will ask you, do you envision this device having a crank on it? Or is this something where you pull it back with your bare hands, a hybrid of
Yeah,
both?
yeah,
What would you
it's
like
a
to see?
hand. I envision this as a hand crossbow, so I just would load the bolt, crank it back, and fire it
Okay.
off.
This thing is strong enough
Yeah.
where you almost feel as if you had to,
Mhm.
you could damn near shoot bolts from a heavy crossbow in this thing.
Mhm.
If it had a little bit of a modification on it, you could even shoot bigger arrows than 1d6s and 1d8s out of it. It has a strength to it. Are you wanting to try to maybe unlock anything and using some of its
Yeah,
abilities
I'm
in
gonna.
practice? Or remember, you
So
long day, but it's up to you.
yeah, I think she's gonna spend about an hour like attuning to it,
Perfect.
and then the attunement process would be like studying it, looking it over, a few more practice shots to see if she can or Shade can unlock anything or come to know any special features about the crossbow.
Okay. Give me a charisma check, please.
Natural 20.
Okay.
For a
Really?
total of yeah, for a total of 23.
Okay. That's very important. That's really important. A natural 20 on that, huh?
Mhm.
So the time you spend with the thing and trying to get to know its ins and outs and thinking about the twisted fates, ups and downs, and the things that it can and cannot do. And you refer it to, it almost reminds you of, Asleair in a way. There's two different sides to the coin here.
Mhm.
You don't know if you pull the trigger if you're going to get a natural one and the side of it you don't like, or you're going to get natural 20s when you try to bond with it. It's been a very interesting thing. This thing seems to have a personality to it. Okay. Now, how many times a day are you able to perform these things with it? What's the charges to it? You remember?
Um, I think it has three times a day.
Okay. Um, because of that charisma bonus that you just did, um, because you bonded with it and went through all that, I'm going to say I'm going to move that to 4. Okay. There may be times where it's not 4, but you have really got a connection with this thing when you went through that process. Okay. Jeremy, did you happen to check Facebook and see if anyone else has mentioned if they're joining in? No. Okay. So in a minute, we'll go ahead and continue on because I think I know how we can do this. Okay. So let me get something going here in just a minute, guys. Sorry. Just a minute, sir. There we go. I like it. Just putting in a little background music for myself. Okay. So can you guys hear that music at all? That's fine. It's all for me anyway. It's very self-serving. So with that, um, as you go through and you're sitting there and you're going through this process, um, Sade, a familiar figure approaches you. Um, it is Yakon-ru, which is this large yak-like humanoid creature that hangs around the Sanctuary of Wrath. Okay, it's very slow speaking, very humbly wise, kind of large creature with large, long pieces and braids of hair in its eyes, the large horns. This thing stands at about 7'1" and is big like Dahan. It wears Tibetan type garb of bright oranges and blues and reds and has bells and chimes and things that hangs off it. For such a strong, large creature, this is a very spiritual, very passive creature. And he says, I have a message for you. You
Okay.
are to meet at the temple at sundown. Master Tanemeh wishes to speak to several people, you being one of them.
Very well. Tell him I'll be there.
Those look like good shots.
Thank you. It's a new one.
Just kind of smiles, and the honesty to Yakon-ru And the way he says things, you can't help but think it a bit comical. But this is one of the most purest, most honest, never any kind of bullshit, just a very happy, pleasant creature. And it is the right-hand man to Tanemeh at all times. It's almost like the Chewbacca to Han Solo. Okay? And as it turns around and walks off, you hear the chimes gently, and it starts to have a light snow just seconds after Yakon. It's Yakon dash RU. Yakon-ru. After he turns and walks away, and you know he's going to walk super slow all the way back up those long stairs, all the way back up to the temple. With that, was there anything else you want to accomplish? Are you getting ready to put the mannequins back, or is there anything?
Yeah, Sade is gonna wrap up what they were doing in the theater and then slowly make their way to the temple.
Okay. Roll me another perception check with disadvantage. There's a reason.
Natural 1 for a total of 3.
Okay. As you're wrapping things up, you don't remember exactly how all these mannequins fit in there as good as they did the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But after a little bit of it, it's like trying to get camping chairs in the trunk. You know, you're like, I'll fucking make it work. And you eventually get everything put back into said storage buildings back behind their ancient wood. They barely keep stuff dry in there. These mannequins smell kind of mildewy and musty. You've got things back in there, and you feel content with what you've done. And you can't help having in the back of your mind, you know, Miasha, where have you gone? You know, it's a nagging thought, but you have so many things going on your plate, and only getting to know her as much as you did, you have other things to deal with right now. So, with that, we'll stop with you for this minute. I'll pick back up with Brahmas, okay? Okay. So, Brahmas, as you leave there and Bastille makes his way into the darkened alleys with Dorbach the spider, you are heading back to Vander's shop to do a little bit more reading. Maybe ask Ember if she can look up a couple things more on great birds and combat tactics, and maybe even do some sparring in your own rooms with a shield and get yourself back accustomed to using one. So I'll just say you make your way to Vander's, correct? Okay. Now it's getting to be 6:37. The sun's starting to come down, but it's not quite dark yet. There are long shadows all through the streets, and that temperature's starting to drop because of that. And now you're getting some light snow that's blowing in from around. There's no more water dripping off the rooftops. It's getting chilled out enough where that has all stopped. Okay. As you head there, Dreiden is walking out of Vander's shop, and he meets you at the stairway as if he's just leaving, taking care of some business. Are you familiar with Dreiden? Okay. Dreiden is my character. He is a lion Felidae monk that looks to be in his late 20s. He wears a gi that is made up of handcrafted and sewn pieces of other people's attire and stuff that he has won from them in the gladiator ring.
Is he the same one that I saw standing over there looking at the band where Miyashi used to play?
I think so, possibly.
You told me I seen a male Felidae, but I never really detailed who it was.
Possibly so. He is a monk and follows a very strict tradition. You recognize him immediately because when Bastille cast the spiritual guardian spell, the three figures that float around him, the celestial figures that protect him, look like Dreiden. Okay, and he has his hair all braided up, almost Jamaican style, with the long dreads of the lion hair all put back in buns and hang down here off of the sideburns, and he has a tuft of chin hair that he has braided just a little bit down from his chin. Very traveled, very tough looking individual. And as he heads down the stairways, he stops and he looks at you and he speaks soft and his voice cracks when he speaks, Jeremy. After he makes eye contact with you, he searches the body up and down, as many people do. They size you up, not knowing how to react to you automatically. And he says, "We've never been properly introduced, but I've heard many things." He holds a hand out and walks down to shake hands with you. What are you doing?
Return the gesture.
Okay. As he shakes hands with you, he's looking up into the eyes. He goes, "I am," and he clears his throat. And you'll notice when he's talking, he has to clear his throat a lot, as if either he has some kind of illness or there's something wrong with it. Okay? I won't keep doing it just to not drive you guys nuts, but he does that at least once every sentence or so to try to get his voice back to where it needs to be. He has a very faint and it's a rough voice, okay? And he says, "I am Dreiden, friend of Bastiel's and fellow hunter for Vander, and all the different items and relics he would ask of me. I believe your comrades have a conversation to have with you when you enter the shop. I hope to see you there with them later. Take care of yourself, Merc." He gives you a nod. And he just walks off with that. Do you have anything else you would like to say with him? Or say to him?
I think he'll have that one kind of in the back of his mind, just kind of curious.
Okay. So if there's any notes you want to take about these NPCs, please do. Because, I mean, I know him, of course. Dreiden was my character for a long time. But it'll help remind you of shit you've got in the pot. You know what I'm saying? As you go in to Vander's, Silhouette is standing in the middle telling a story. Okay, and Tamara is at the bar, and they seem to have several different bags and several boxes of things that they have got to decorate her house. They have went shopping. This is the D&D version of the movie moment where the Beverly Hills girls carrying all the boxes and walking in heels and shit. That's the moment they're having inside the shop, okay? They got all kinds of fun shit in here. And Silhouette's going around very animatedly talking like this. She goes, "I would have never been allowed to do this back where I'm from, but now that it is my place with my own coins that I have made, thanks to most of all of you," and Vander is back at his counter, strolling through pages of the book with the gruff look on his face, the green and gold robes and the long black and silver beard, just kind of rubbing it and just giving her very entertaining nods, as if, "Yes, please continue, please continue. You flatter us, please tell us more about this extravagant place and the job you've got. Yes, please share all the details of that, Silhouette." And she's got the crowd. As that happens, Tamara walks past her as she is just turning into background noise, promise. She is on cloud nine talking about this stuff she's got. She's opening up boxes. She's sitting shit out on the counter talking to Vander, and he's very entertained by how impressed she is of all this shit that she could afford and buy herself. Okay? Tamara walks across and gives you a Jesus kind of look. And she walks up to you. She goes, "Sometimes, to tell you the truth, I envy you. The solace you must have at times, I can only envision it." And she says this sarcastically, talking about wanting to escape this verbal assault from Silver. Do you have anything to say in reply?
She hear her when she's inside these walls.
Oh my God.
The echoes are still here.
She chuckles, and she puts her hand on your shoulder like you're a person. And when she does that and slaps the side of you, it's not weird anymore. She doesn't withdraw. And I want you to roll me a charisma check, Jeremy, for Merc.
14.
14. You could swear that for just a brief moment, you felt that. Merc felt that. When that gesture of hers, where she came up and just gave you a slap on the shoulder in a fellowship joke, not looking at you as something that's inside of something else, but she just rawly did that, treating this construct as a person, you could swear you felt that on your actual shoulder. It makes you wonder about the connection you're starting to get with this thing, and when you drop down defensive walls and start treating this like it is a person, like it is you. And that's worrying and also a nice thing at the same time. You can see where that's a double-edged sword, of course. So just keep that in mind, okay? Okay. She goes, so I take it you just saw Dreiden leaving the shop, yes?
I did. He sounds ill.
What's the last thing you said, Jeremy?
He sounds ill.
I haven't yet had a chance to talk about that, but it seems like something I don't really know Bastille or him well enough about to ask yet. But I don't sense illness about him. If anything, to tell you the truth, he lets off the vibe he's probably the healthiest thing I've ever seen in this town. Strange. Maybe it's something I can ask. I don't take him for much of a liar, but I've been fooled before.
Could be advantage in appearing weaker.
I know some monks train that way. Could be something in what he does. I mean, you know what Rainlore is up to right now, with having the crippled legs and walking around trying to get practice. Maybe it's something like that. They're always doing things, trying to teach themselves some lessons, putting themselves through personal peril. I myself really don't care for that approach, but to each their own. She says, well, anyway, long story short, he has asked us to join him at the Sanctuary of Wrath tonight to go over some combat tactics and things for the journey up ahead. It turns out Bastille's going to be coming with us, and and I believe they have a master there. I think his name is Tan something. I can't remember it exactly, but I guess he's wanting to instruct us on some things there and get us ready for the dangers ahead. I say, why the hell not?
Anything that could possibly give us the upper hand.
Anything would help.
Like this is going to be easy.
I mean, if we sit here and it took 4 or 5 of us to take down some gnomish construct in the middle of town square, I know it sounds thrilling and all and stuff like that, and I know Valdera doesn't concern herself with odds, as I wish she would more. But I've never fought dinosaurs. I've never been there. I wear armor, and this place sounds tropical. And she's smiling, and she goes, maybe I should have started working on some cold spells and stuff instead of working on all the things I have been. And she kind of laughs at her own, she's giving herself shit about that one. But anyway,
she'll be able to look up and notice that Abramus is definitely got an appearance like he's thinking.
Okay. Okay. She goes, well, anyway, we're getting ready to square up here and head that direction unless you've got something else you were needing to do.
No. I just want to look into some books.
Okay.
When like you say that, way to do more than just combat this version.
Okay. That last sentence, you have to say it over top of Silowin. Because right there you said, I need to look into some books. As you're getting ready to describe, Silowin gets in between you two. Okay? And she's showing off some different things that she got, and she's holding up the one thing ironically close to your face, like she has to hold it up to the visors for you to be able to see it. Like kind of being silly about it. She goes, And this tells time. I'm going to put this on the mantle up there beside my fireplace. You hear that? My fireplace. That's right. And no more playing these pieces of crap. I have my own lute. I have my own harp now. And we're going to be doing all kinds of things. And you can hear me practice. And it will be fantastic. And I know you'll be honest with me because you're my teacher and kind of a mentor and all those kind of things. So just wow today, right? Wow.
Perhaps one of these days she can come inside the castle and help me decorate.
She comes up to you and she puts her mouth kind of close to Brahmas's chest. She goes, and also we need to talk a little bit about um, what we're getting ourselves into here because I am going to stress this one more time, Merc. I am not about taking out someone's demigod. I am not going to go over here and watch people hunt down and fight a big prehistoric bird that people chant and worship. Just, I mean, we have to go down. We have to see what's going on first before I'm going to use my spear and put my life on the line. It doesn't seem like anyone has any answers here for us. And Tamara says, and she puts her hand like this. She goes, "That's why we're going to go there. We're going to take the ship ride. We don't have to do anything we don't want to. We have enough money. We can pay for passage back if we decide we don't want to do it." She goes, "Okay, I just want to make sure I'm being clear about that." Sullivan says, "I want to make sure everyone knows that I'll decide what I'm going to do when I get there. Until I get a chance to talk to these people, I don't know. I'm not killing gods." Okay? With that, Tamara says, "Okay, good to know again for the 10th time. We get it." She says to her as the two give each other a look. She looks at you and she goes, "Valder's helping Gwyneth finish up and packing some things. And plus, I've caught word that the Lylung is going around the back of Big Gun Dabbleduns to get some upgrades and the cannons hooked up. So we probably won't see those people until the morning." She goes, "We're going to head that direction. You ready?" And she's talking about going to the Sanctuary of Wrath.
Yes, it is so.
Okay.
I'll follow close behind. Just yell a little extra loud because in the meantime, I'll be inside perusing some books.
Okay. So, Sullivan and Heather, Heather and Kara head out and go that direction. Walking through town, you're inside. What is it you're wanting to look at before you leave? Or take with you, or whatever. Now, are you wanting to look like in the shop, or you want to look in Brahmas? What are you looking for?
Wherever Merc would believe he would find the most relevant information. Because
Okay.
basically he wants to know how to bring this bird to the ground.
Okay.
He wants to know how to subdue it non-lethally. And
Okay.
then it's a stretch, but he would like to find out what kind of people can speak to animals.
What kind of people can do what? The last thing?
Speak with animals.
Okay.
Which is one thing that I would have wanted to talk to Oma about, because I don't know if that's something she can do, but it'd be nice to have something like that in the back pocket.
Well, that'd be something to bring up to her. Okay, absolutely. Now I remember before we did investigation checks for you, and you didn't find a whole lot of stuff here. You found some things, and you read through some stuff. So let's just make up a little bit of something for you. Let's say that Ember, you've asked her to look for some things for you while you were going around town and making some preparations. That's a very realistic thing. She's fond of you and some of the other guys in the group. So, Sean, I would like for you to roll an investigation check for Ember to see if she finds anything on these topics. The first topic of which is how to subdue creatures without fatally killing them. If you want to roll a 1d4 and a 1d20 and tell me what you get.
Got a 14.
Okay. Unfortunately, there are things about how to survive attacks from big creatures like that, but nothing in here that she can find. You're sure there's something here? This place has a lot of shit. But even though she knows this library, especially the upper one, pretty well, she's not able to find anything exactly about how to subdue one or anything of that nature. Okay. What was the second topic again you were wanting to look into? People that can speak of animals.
Yes.
Okay.
And being able how to bring a bird to the ground.
Okay. Okay. Roll that one with advantage, Sean, and tell me what you get for her.
I think you had that advantage. It'd be 17.
Okay, a little bit better. Druids and druid craft is certainly the way to go with things of this nature. Now, you also read, and she showed you some different passages about things that can be fed to animals that will actually make them slumber and sleep. And that's how they usually transport a lot of the bigger creatures into gladiator rings and shit like that. Creatures that they catch, they gotta tranquilize, and then they snap out of it when they're in captivity. Now, roll a history check for me, Jeremy.
$17.
Okay. With a 17, you recall, and I don't know if you both remember this or not, but when you were in the heart of the beast and you were seeing them walk in and out with supplies and things like that, you remember Caliban bumping into Omen, trying to hand him a bunch of stuff. And one of the things that fell on the ground were these sacks full of these rare herbs and things that were put in there. I said it looked like all kinds of large amounts of rosemary and different smelling greenery and things of that nature. That could be something to use for this. You're thinking maybe they've already kind of planned something like that. Maybe that's part of this package deal. Maybe it's almost like a something that like a catnip for these creatures. Maybe it's something that puts something to sleep. Maybe it's so they can mask and disguise their own smells when we're out there hunting for this thing. You don't know, but you've seen them moving around some things of that nature that they could have already possibly thought of this. Okay? And that would be a putting it to sleep, tricking it, eating it, stuff the shit in a roast hog and throw it out and see what happens, anything like that. So with that, that's been about a half hour of time. They've got a pretty good start on you, and they're headed up that direction. Is there something else you want to do, or do you want to head that way? Or do you want to skip it all together and do something different?
They'll start heading that direction.
Okay. Now, for you, getting around there is no problem because you're just piloting this thing. But it is a fucking climb. Okay? To get up to the monastery is part of the older side of town that a lot of folks kind of don't use much anymore. It's also the theater area where Sean's character was at earlier. There are a lot of things that have been updated and moved to different parts of the city. This would almost be like the area where the monastery and things like the Sanctuary of Wrath and this cathedral like area that Sean's at almost reminds you more of like an ancient type park like thing where people stroll through it to talk about the Gemdar that used to be. This is the second reincarnation of the city, and there are things brought from old Gemdar here in this area. It's not really populated with people. It's more of a monument and a tourist attraction this side of town. And these large steps that go up the side of the mountain to get to this place are long. I'm talking like 500-600 yards worth of steps. Okay? That wrap around and go to a piece on the backside of the mountain that New Gemdar is built upon and built into partway. This sanctuary hangs off to the side of the place. It is halfway between Skywatch and the bottom. Okay? It takes you quite some time to go that way, and as you do, you see all kinds of interesting things that are left on the steps. There are some weapons that people just laid and set down. There are some different pieces of clothing There are some bottles of booze and tankards of things where people went to go up there to do shit, obviously drunk, and didn't make the climb. You would actually see, as you're getting up there, Silowin and Tamara quite a bit up ahead of you, but stopping and taking a breather as you're headed that direction. Let me see something real quick. I want to make sure. Okay, Caliban is coming up behind you. He had a couple things to do there after he left the shop. He is now headed up behind you, headed to the same place. He says to you in a kind of a gruff voice, Alex is getting ready to join in. Just a minute, guys. Okay. So he says to you in kind of a gruff voice, he goes, I hate to have to keep climbing these steps. The last time I did this, I was shunned by this Tanemeh, this supposed master. I wasn't very pleased about it. If everyone else is getting an invite to go up here and I'm joining with you to go on this quest, he needs to grant me entrance, and I'm going to ask him again.
Sade just pops out of nowhere from the shadows on your climb up. Just like, so you've seen him too. Well, race you to the top. And then she just goes back into the shadows. And shadow steps her way back up to the...
God, what a fun character. Roll stealth check, please.
That is 28. No, sorry. That's a...
I was like, you are the
26.
You are the shadows. You didn't jump into the shadows jumped into you, sir. You just Chuck Norrised it. So I am the darkness. So you jump back into this and you are headed that direction. Caliban stops, seemingly frustrated. Looks over to you, Brahmas. Says, I will not run. I am not to get myself in a hurry for disappointment. He goes, besides, if she wanted to do a competition, she should have took the notes from the last one we had. And he just kind of snickers arrogantly to a degree. You know that what this guy can do, packing a punch, you know Sade felt it. But you also know that little bit of arrogance that he has and things is probably one of the reasons why Tanemeh didn't let him in here to begin with. So, double-edged sword. Cha-cha. With that, I'm going to pause this recording for just a minute and catch Miss Alex up to current events and bullshit, and then we'll resume the recording here in just a few. Okay? So, see you in a minute. And one. Okay, we are back. So, I was bringing Alex up to date with a couple things that we're getting into. Jeremy, while I am going through a scene with her, would you message Hunter and tell him we'll be gaming on here till 9:30, 10 o'clock. He can jump on at any time. Okay? I know he's not home still yet, but we'll not be getting up to the temple until I get done with her scene anyway. So if he wants to jump in, he can. Okay?
He just messaged and said he doesn't believe he's going to be able to make it because he's still not home.
Okay. All right. That'll work. Well, like I say, regardless, just shoot him something that says, like, if you want to join in, like, at 9 or something, there's still something for him to accomplish if he wants to. Okay? All right. So, Oma, you've said that you believe you would like to go up and check on Gleeandria and see how her recovery is doing. You've already taken care of the negotiations between Aeolus and the Heart of the Beast. You've already taken care of the cloak. Dahan seems to be kind of jealous of you now because you don't need him as much as you used to, which is kind of strange. Yeah, me and Danny were talking about that because he's the big bro to you. And now that you're taking all these responsibilities on, It's hard for him a little bit, and you've decided that you feel your responsibility to make sure Gleeandria makes a complete recovery.
Yeah.
And you haven't seen her for a couple days, and the last time you knew she was getting better, but she still, remember, she was actually walking for the first time the other day and up and about off the side of the ship. So I'm going to put you there at the entranceway on the docks in Skywatch. And I'm going to put you standing there in front of the Dreadnaught, getting ready to board and talk to her. Okay?
Okay.
Now, she was on the Lylum for a while under your all's care. Now she's strong enough where she has went there. And if I'm not mistaken, she requested for you to come see her again, at least.
Mhm.
Okay? So, as you arrive at the ship, it is, this place was pretty quiet and pretty vacant after the goblin attack. And like I told you, security's really been tightened down. Trevedale, the Russian-speaking character that has the gun, he was cracking down on regulations and shit up here. And the King Omenon even had a presence up here, trying to make sure we iron out whatever is going on here. But the Dreadnaught seems to be preparing. There is although not nearly enough, a small crew of people that are kind of gloomy, and they're working on the Dreadnaught and cleaning it and getting things ready. And you can't help but think, Oma, surely she's not getting ready to go do something already. Okay. Do you go ahead and board and head into her chambers, or are you looking for anyone particularly first? Or are you just going to walk straight up to it? You know where she stays in the ship.
I'm going to go look for her.
Okay. As you board the ship, there's no one there that you really know or are very familiar with except for one person. Okay. They seem to be walking along the edge of the ship, and they are just now starting to head down the same direction you are. And you see the back tailcoat and the long hair of Asleair, or the Drowned Kiss. Okay. Which looks like Loki, like Tom. Is it Hiddleston or Middleston? I always forget that.
Hiddleston.
With Hiddleston. Remember the water genasi? Seems to be back on the ship. You haven't seen him since all the shit went down. Okay, you heard that he went through some serious stuff. The rumor was, and from talking to the other adventurers and things like that, and Gleeandria says that in private to you, what Asleair did for her was extremely brave, extremely foolish, and could possibly get innocent people killed. And the thing is that Gleeandria always tells you that she knows that she's not innocent. She deserves whatever she gets. And Asleair is no exception to that. And I know he was thinking with his heart and not his common sense mind when he was trying to rid me of this wicked deal. And she always rubs her arm where that raven tattoo used to be. And he says, but I fear the wrath that this defiance is going to bring down on us. It's going to be swift and severe. That was the last time you talked to Gleeandria. If he's here back on the ship now, you can only wonder if his presence here is why the ship is seemingly preparing for something. Okay? So I'll say you go ahead and head in to the central chamber. And remember, this place isn't meant for luxury. This is a military-looking vessel with harsh edges, and it's meant for battle. Okay, it doesn't have pleasantries or comforts, except for her room, which usually isn't too bad. When you go back there, the door is open, and you hear a hushed voice, too faint to understand it's Asleair, as he begins to whisper and lower his voice and stop speaking when you approach her chambers. And you open up the double doors, and she sits in the very lower bottom part of the ship. It is a long, wide, rectangular room that has long looks long from right to left, but is not near is narrow the other way around. She has a large table with maps and things like that on it. She has metal symbols of basilisks and different things that hang on the walls in here. She has a very fancy case that holds several different rapiers and swords, and they seem to have descriptions like she's collected them over the years. All kinds of different things of that nature. This is a general's looking quarters. Okay.
Nice.
She is sitting over in her chair, and she is dressed like she normally would be in the overlong coat, with the collar flipped up, with her particular swords by her side, but she moves very stiffly and uncomfortably. As she stands up when you walk in, Asleair is to the side of the door when you open it up, and looks from the floor, looks up and meets your gaze, and says, "Hello, Oma. It's been a while since
Hello.
we've seen each other or spoken."
Hello, Gleeandria. How are you feeling?
Gleeandria speaks up and she kind of grins. She goes, "Well, I would tell you everything was sunshine and rainbows, but I'd be lying, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Sleeping better. Thanks."
that's good.
Makes me wonder why they even keep such ridiculous devices to control goblins of all things. What a ridiculous idea. And to not just destroy that thing and burn it. And you say this vendor keeps these kind of relics and keeps these things?
Yes.
Asleair says, he is trying to do work to understand and contain problems of this nature. Destroying it wouldn't solve anything. To understand how it works and maybe destroy the next one. I believe that to be Vander's goal. She goes, "Whatever the fuck his goal is, it certainly didn't serve us very well, now did it?" Actually, I'm glad you showed up, Oma. Could you have a seat for just a moment? We're just going over something.
Sure thing.
Okay. As you walk in, and Fancy, there's about 3 or 4 different chairs and stuff along that big table that she calls her main desk. And it has the different maps and stuff like that. She goes, "Let me move some of this out of the way. Move this out of the way." And she's pulling up and curling maps. And as she reaches across for 1 minute, oh, natural 1. You see a little wet spot of blood on her undershirt. Now, she usually shows a little bit of cleavage. She wears a white shirt underneath of her overcoat that usually shows her form pretty well. And through that white, you see a blood spot. And as she reaches out to roll up one of the maps, she winces. And she puts a hand down to kind of hold herself. She's leaning on over the table. It's a little bit too far, you know? And as she does that and she looks to Asleair, she goes to walk across. He's already 2 steps towards her. And she looks at you, and she looks at him, and she comes up with a wickedly determined look. She goes, "I'm fine. I've done far worse to this than other people, and they still sail. I will not let some ridiculous fucking curse be the end of the captain of the Dreadnaught. Is that clear?"
Yes.
Asleair says, well, she was more yelling at Asleair. She wouldn't talk to you that way, Oma.
Okay.
She's yelling past you.
Gotcha.
And Asleair just kind of nods. Fine. She goes, "We were just discussing our next moves. And I know that Aeolus will just simply be heartbroken over this new adventure that we've decided to go on. But I believe that if I remain here, now that I've been awakened, in part thanks to you, in part thanks to Sade and others, She looks distant for a moment. She goes, I'm afraid we're going to bring unwanted attention to Skywatch. And I already know that you and Aeolus are babysitting far too many people now as it is.
Yeah.
She goes, if you could, send a message and tell your captain that we will be gone for at least 2 to 3 weeks on an adventure of our own. And he is privy to the following things while I leave. She hands a list to you that is stamped and it has the double-faced snakes on it, the basilisks, and a wax stamp on the paper. And she goes, and give this to him when he's not around a bunch of people, if you don't mind.
Okay.
This is not for prying eyes, child.
Discreetly. Got it.
Nice. She goes, so. She sits back in the chair and she crosses her arms.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, do I have your permission to start to act normal again, or am I still too frail to boss people around?
Oh, I think you can probably boss people around, but as long as you take it easy on yourself.
That's why I have him here. You see, all I do is point things, and he's the one that takes care of the hard work. He snickers in the background and says, it's too bad you couldn't have done something to alter her attitude when you were trying to heal her. Obviously, she's well enough to be a smartass. He says like that, and the two have a dry chuckle moment. It feels awkward for Oma, but you've heard people enjoy talking to each other like this. It's not your thing, but they sarcastically seem to like each other to some degree.
Gotcha.
You have been working on some potions, Oma, that you would like for her to take to nurse herself back to health. And what they do is they are healing potions to a degree, but they also have the ability to reduce deep-seated poisons, and they will also help her sleep. So these things that you've been concocting with Medelia's help will be something to hopefully help her have better dreams, rid herself of the complete curse and takeover that this relic had on her, and will hopefully nurse her back into health in a while. You've made 2 of these said bottles, and I will even say that possibly you're carrying them on your person. Now would be an opportune time to give those to her if you would choose to.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to first state that these are best taken at night. But probably don't take all of it all at once.
Asleair chuckles at the mention that, because he's like, you know her. He says like that behind you. With that, roll a persuasion check.
Okay. Gosh. So
Yeah.
22.
Really? 22? Damn it, Oma. With the natural 2, she listens to every word you say to a T. You
Nice.
find that she's learned to trust you over time and knows that what you're asking her to do is best for her, and she reflects that in the speech that she gives you after that. She says, if it weren't for, and be damned if he ever knew this, but if it weren't for Aeolus and others, and last but certainly not least Sade, I wouldn't even be here to begin with. So send Aeolus my regards and thank him once again for giving me you for a short while.
Okay.
She says, as she puts her hand over top of yours for a minute, as she's pushing herself up, Alex, she says, I want you to know that even if the skies darken soon, and she gets intense, and things seem bleak for the Dreadnaught and its crew, you tell Aeolus that the favors end now. Now we have our own demons we have to chase. If we return in 3 weeks, the Dreadnaught will be a changed ship and its crew free of burden. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So, with that, you would sense that the conversation is coming to a close. Is there anything else you'd like to say to Asleair or her before you leave the ship?
I don't think so, but on my way out, I would kind of discreetly shake a little, because I think the drowned kiss gives me the creeps.
Okay, nice. As you do, he follows you out and shuts the door behind you, and he says, a moment. It's in a little bit of a darkened hallway, but there's enough light here where it almost preys upon your insecurities a little bit more.
Mhm.
But he's not trying to sound intimidating. That's just the way he is. Okay? Do you
Okay.
stop, or do you walk on up where there's more daylight before you have a conversation?
I stop.
Okay.
I'm not happy about it.
Okay, just a minute. Okay, he senses your fear. And he puts his hands up like this. And he goes, just a word, if you don't mind.
Okay.
There is the slightest chance that we won't be back, no matter her best intentions or what she says. And that's okay. The city of Ravens has its claws deep in the Dreadnaught. Its investment in this ship is something that won't be lost easily, nor shaken. And now without the Dreadnaught's captain and first mate and second mate, Sade, this is a great loss to that city, and their prides will be hurt. Please don't take this the wrong way. Stay away from us until we return. It is endangering everyone that comes into contact with us right now. For the
Okay.
wrath that will fall upon us will not know friends from foe, and will not care who stands in between the city and us.
All right. Message received.
You are dear to her. I can see that. He says, the stone maiden doesn't draw a smile or show her weakness to many, if any.
Mhm.
It may be even best to not even talk about us out in public, or even affiliate yourself with us until we know this is solved. And there is something I would like for you to tell Sade for me.
Okay.
Our last act to free ourselves of the grip of the city of Ravens may very well be perilous. But if the ship would make it back to the city without its crew, the ship is to go to her. Okay?
Okay.
He says, Gleeandria has already written up the paperwork and it rests within her room. It is factual, and even Solomari, which is that Jeff Goldblum veiled elf that walks around here and checks on all the ship's documents all the time, says not even he would see falter with it. Okay.
All right.
So with that, he gives you a long look like it could be the last one. And he says, I hope after we battle our demons, we can share company again. And he slowly turns around and walks back into the door and says, take care. And goes back into the room where Gleeandria is staring out the door as if she's overheard some of the conversation with a remorse look on her face.
Oh.
As if she didn't have the heart to tell you goodbye after everything you guys have been through. Asleair had to be the one to do it.
Okay.
Okay? It's like shooing away the cat that comes around all the time because you know it's going to end up dying if you don't. It's a tough situation for him. So, with that, as you are leaving the ship, you see something strange that you haven't seen before. And it is a large-looking yak-like humanoid. This thing has long, thick, almost winter-like hair that is browns and whites mixed in of deep braids. The hair covers where its eyes would be, and you see a wide nostril nose and almost a frown-like mouth with a bushy kind of beard. This thing is muscularly built at 7 foot tall with large yak horns that come out of the side of its head with chimes and stuff hanging on the ends of it. This thing is dressed up like a Tibetan with the oranges, reds, and blues, and has large, hairy legs with hooved feet, and is walking up, and it seems to have some kind of blanket that seems to be hand woven, almost Tibetan style, wrapped around its body like a tunic or like a toga on top of the normal Tibetan clothing, and it seems to be walking towards the Dreadnaught in your direction. As you go to leave the ship and walk down off of it, it stops and stands way almost 2 foot taller than you are and looks down upon you. And without even parting the hair, it's within 10 foot of you, steps up one more big step, has a deep sigh, and it says, Oma.
Yeah.
Good, I had hoped it was you. Master Tanemeh wishes for you to join us at the Sanctuary of Wrath. Do you know where that is? You have an idea.
Right?
You have an idea. You've actually roll a history check real quick.
Okay.
We'll see. D&D, it's magic stuff, folks. You just Google Maps that shit. You'll find it. It's no problem.
Hmm. 10.
You know about where it is, but you've never walked there before. You'd have to just follow the signs, and you believe you could find your way there, but you're a little nervous about it. What do you say?
I know vaguely where it is.
He gives you a brief description about the large stone stairs that climb up the side of the mountain that wraps back around behind where New Gemdar sits. And the temple is up to the top of it.
Okay.
There will be several other of your companions that'll be joining you there. Master Tanemeh wishes to discuss training with you all before you head out on your adventure to the Crescent Cradle.
Okay.
And he goes, we would see you there at sundown, at dusk,
Okay.
or sunset. Okay?
Mhm.
Okay. And with
Thank
that,
you.
he slowly turns around very stoically. He's almost slow moving like a sloth would be in human form. It's very odd, but
Mhm.
very pleasant sounding, very passive. This looks like a very spiritual being. That's what you get from it. Smells like incense and hay. Uh, has that kind of thing. There's kind of that whole head shop vibe going on. This large noble creature, and you just can't help but think, my God, what other kind of beings are there in this place? This is a yak person, for crying out loud. What your brother would think of this if he was around. With that, is there anything else you wish to do, or do you want to head to that place? You're thinking in your mind it's going to take you about an hour and a half at least to get over there, and in 2 hours it'll be dark. So,
Uh.
what are you thinking about doing with your time? You have any other stops you want to make, or are you headed that direction?
Should I try to make an attempt to go to AO and tell him about everything, or
That's your decision.
yeah? Yeah, because I'll go and find AO first,
Okay.
and then go to the temple.
Well, I got good news for you. We'll kind of
Yeah.
fast forward through that a little bit. Okay. I'll say you go over there and talk to Aeolus about this, which seems to be frustrated with the idea that Gleeandria thinks that she has some kind of penance for signing some deal with shady people, when he knows that people are just trying to survive from the city of Ravens, Yakon-ru. He thinks she's beating herself up way too much and being very overly dramatic. Do you mention the part about Sade, or do you keep that to yourself?
I keep that to myself.
Okay. And with that, Dahan arrives and asks about what you're getting into and things. You guys discuss we're going up there for training. And he's asked for this. He had this large yak-like person, and Dahan knows this creature. Dahan has actually sparred with it before, and its name he tells you is Yakon-ru. Yakon-ru. That's the name of the spiritual creature that just came up and talked to you. He is the muscle in the right-hand mind of Tanemeh, the small goblin mentor of the Sanctuary of Wrath. Okay? Dahan says, how about you don't have to just climb those stairs, and I give you a lift up there. I haven't got to catch up or see you for a little bit of a while. I've kind of gotten away from some folks and have a little bit of time to breathe. So, on Roselia's Eye, the small airship that brought everybody back to the city, the one that's about car size, Dahan is the pilot of it practically. It's Bastile's ship, but it usually is hung on to the side of the Lylung. It's like their getaway vehicle, if you will. And he's going to give you a lift up the stairway and drop you off up there at the Sanctuary of Wrath. He's just going to fly it up around the side of the mountain and drop you off up there.
Okay, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah. Just for the hell of it, roll a charisma check to see how the conversation went on the way up. And then we are almost in the same place, guys.
Yeah.
I'm trying. Sean, by the way, your video is coming in like way better than usual today. Are you using something different?
Yeah, I'm using my husband's computer.
I mean, tell him that's rocking. It's top notch, sir. Top notch.
Yeah.
Okay, I got an 18.
An 18. Awesome. Oh, nice. A natural 15. So 21. Good. Okay. So is there anything in particular you would like to ask Dahon about as you guys are going up that direction? Anything you kind of been itching at you or anything like that, or anything particular?
Um, so Siluan, huh?
Yeah, I figured. He looks over at you and he kind of looks embarrassed a little bit, and he goes, yeah, you noticed.
It was kind of hard not to notice.
Yeah, tell me about it. He says, I didn't exactly intend for anything to happen. We were celebrating. We were celebrating victory, a battle. He kind of swells his chest up a little bit, but you're not buying it. And I can tell from the grin on your face, almost not buying that shit at all. And he says, but I didn't expect all of this. But it has been a nice distraction from things. I feel lighter, he says. Things don't, I just feel, I don't know, nice, I guess. And that's the best he explains it. He says, and then he kind of double takes back and says, her being new to the city, of course, she needs protection. There are people that would take advantage of someone like that here. And he's trying to bullshit it off and pass it as his civil duty, to be around this chick and shit like that. And he goes, and she's also beautifully broken, like a lot of us are. And he says, I'm talking about the wing. You've noticed.
Yep.
She was telling me a little bit about it the other night, or the next morning. He kind of chuckles and he says, and she's been through a lot. Sometimes I get forgetful that I'm not the only one that's had loss, and other people have had things too. Other people have homes that they don't get to see anymore. Other people have lost folks that they'll never get to see again. It's not just me, and it's not just you. It's I feel normal. Oma.
Nice.
It's scary.
Mm.
I don't know how to act and feel if I'm not got something pissing me off all the time. I don't know what to do with myself if I'm not having to drink at night to combat my own head. And he smacks himself in the head like that. It's I have a lot of extra time on my hands. And it says, hey, we're almost there.
Nice.
He says, I don't know how to put this. We are close. He goes like this, puts a hand between you and him. And he goes, and this is a different thing that I'm doing here. He says, or whatever this is, but you need anything of me. Anything. All you have to do is ask.
Okay.
There is no one in my life that's more important than my crew, and I made your brother a promise when I saw him.
Oh. That's sweet.
He says, no, I haven't forgot it. Okay? So with that, you arrive up, and there's the steps are unforgiving. There's no plateau for rest. There's straight steps up the mountain to this place. Like I was telling Sean and them earlier, damn near 500 yards worth of them.
Wow.
But there is a place close to the actual temple, past the steps up to the top where he could drop you off. And like I said, this thing doesn't take up a whole hell of a lot of room. And the way that these work, with the levitation that they have and the lodestar that fuels them, you know quite a bit about them because Medelia's taught you and you've helped work on them on the airship before. Daehan does a pretty good job. Let's hope. Let's see. Yes, not bad. Does a good job at landing in a small place up there in between some trees. There's cherry trees up here, like cherry blossom trees. And he finds a nice spot in a stone yard to actually sit the actual thing down and says, well, any training's good training. Good luck. And I'll see you tomorrow morning on the ship. Stay safe.
Alrighty. Thank you.
So he leaves.
Good luck with Sylvan.
Right on. At that point, as he leaves, 5 minutes later, Silhouette and Tamara come up the steps, absolutely fucking exhausted. And you kind of feel guilty all of a sudden. Like you got away with some shit. And with that, Silhouette comes up and she's got her hands on her legs. She's like, hey, who is that? Who is that?
Oh, it was just Daehan.
And she looks at you for a minute. And she's putting something together in her head, and she gets a look on her face. Like, and she looks over and she smacks Tamara's arm. She goes, he could have gave us a ride up here. He could have gave us a ride up here.
Oh.
You see? And you know you've just created jealousy by being honest. With that, shortly after them, you roll a perception check, please, Oma.
Feels like a serious hashtag sorry, not sorry moment for Oma.
A little bit of something. Yeah, she got a grin.
Wow. 27.
Holy shit. That's great. That plays great to this. Sean, she hears your character chuckle at the comedic thing that's going on here of jealousy. And you look over to the side and you happen to see Sade stepping through some shadows over to the side of the large stairwell and steps. Sade, is there anything you'd like to say to that situation?
Nothing. She's just going to chuckle, pull out her notebook, jot down a few notes about what she's observed, and put it back.
Okay. And then shortly after that, the rest of the group would be coming up the steps. I think lastly, it's Brahma, correct? Okay. Brahma says you make it to the top, being the last one. You can see Silhouette hands moving, going off about something at the top of the hill, complaining to Tamara about something. Oma is already at the top. Sade is also up at the top, and you were the last one to show up. Do you have anything to say, Jeremy, as you reach the top of the steps and you are standing amongst some cherry blossom trees and you see off in the distance the outer wall of this large monastery-like monk training ground place? It's really, really nice here. What are you saying?
And everybody's just kind of together.
They're chatting at the top of the steps, yes.
Let's say he would, as he's walking up, and he would see Oma. It'd be quick taken back because I don't think he's seen Oma in a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a while.
He looks at her and Oma.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see you. I have
Good to see you
something I
too.
wish to speak with you, sir. But
So
for now, what's wrong with Silver?
Okay, so as you say that, she goes, nothing's wrong exactly. I think wrong's a little bit of a strong word for it. Did you get a ride up here? Because we didn't. And some people did, but it doesn't seem like it was all of us. And we were just discussing, if we're supposed to be coming up on this mountain, we're supposed to be training, right? Is the training walking up all the steps? Because they know, I can't fly. and it sounds a little sarcastic to me. And she just goes on about this for about another 2-3 minutes.
Totally. Does Brahmas know that was Dahan?
Yeah, you've rode on Roselia's eye. Yes.
Would it occur to you to ask Dahan if he could give you a ride?
She looks and she's hot. She's like, and you can see the realization in her eyes. Well, no, but I don't think I should have had to.
The way
Are
things
you
occur
siding
down
with
here.
him? Are you siding with him?
And she'll hear Brahmas chuckle a little bit, or Merc rather.
Tamara goes up and puts her hand on someone's shoulder and says, so I don't think this is the training they actually had in mind for us. I don't think we all need couples counseling. Let's just go see what they want with us here. Someone says, fine, but this isn't over. And then she walks along with the rest of you guys as we head up a path to the actual front gate of this place. When you do, you see a very familiar yak-like humanoid, 7 foot tall, standing there at the top of the main approach with the cherry blossom trees to the sides and the large outer stone wall. This thing has many different layers, and it's stacked wafer form all around the side of this mountain. Actually, I have a picture of it, I believe, in my virtual backgrounds. Let me see if I can pull that up, and I'll make it my background here, and I will show you guys what this place looks like if I still have it. Just take me a second. Talk amongst yourselves as I do DM shit. Let's see here.
If you're okay with it, I'm gonna go ahead and ask Oma a question.
Go ahead, please.
Okay.
So as they're walking up, Brahmas will now walk back up to Oma. Are you versed in the ways of speaking with animals?
Versed in the ways of speaking what?
With animals.
With animals. I don't believe so.
You'd see Brahmas kind of go into thinking mode for just a moment. I'd like to try to find a way to. I fear that if we can't communicate with the bird, it'll be very hard to negotiate against bringing any harm to it.
I see.
And Oma was around to find out exactly what we're going to fight and all that. Let's try.
Okay. I had a backup just in case she wasn't.
Well, Brian, I sent you a message.
Oh, okay, just a minute, buddy. Sorry, I'm hot and heavy in here searching for this thing because I need to start categorizing all the shit I've got. I got a lot of stuff, guys. Oh, there it is. Got it. Okay. That's roughly what this thing looks like, clinging into the side of the mountain. Okay?
Oh, nice.
It is pretty sweet. Yeah, I like how I can just take a picture and be like, yeah, that's ours. So we got it. Yeah. See? Wow. So Sean sent me a message because he's being the sneaky. Let's see what's going on here. Is this private message in Facebook or yes? There you go. Fantastic. Moving forward. God, being sneaky. So after you guys have your little conversation there, talking about speaking with animals and whatnot, Oma, you know that there are spells that you could memorize and things that would help you be able to speak with animals. That's something a cleric could do, but you just haven't selected those spells yet. So if you look into your cleric spell list, if you knew that there was a particular time where you would need to speak to creatures, the way spells typically work in D&D is that you can have so many spells per level, and you can change those spells from day to day, depending on what you kind of prepare, what you go over and do rituals, and what you want to take with you on that day.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
until people really get good at understanding magic and stuff, I like to just have you, when you pick spells, those are the ones that create who you are.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get versed in that, and if you read the player's handbook and see how that all works, and you're comfortable with the mechanic of it, then you can change up the spells every once in a while. Okay? And
Okay.
like, for instance, Caleb from the Critical Role, he's a wizard, okay? And every night that they rest, he always says, okay, I'm going through my parchment, I've got my components, and I'm reading up, and he'll prepare himself with spells he knows will work for that next day, things he thinks he'll need. And he has one large spell book that he'll read and prepare notes out of. Now, the problem with this method that's kind of unrealistic about it in real terms, if that's what you're looking for, is that they say that wizards and things can't memorize spells. They only learn them from one day, and when they cast them, the stuff magically wipes from their mind, and they have to relearn it over again the next day.
Mm.
To me, that's clearly a game mechanic. Okay, just to make it work. And that's why I give players the option. If you learn things, maybe that's what you learn. But if you like the other system and want to change it up every once in a while, because no one wants to permanently learn water walking unless it's something you do every day. But if you can cast a 3rd level cleric spell that has that ability or something, you may want to read it up on that night and prepare yourself tomorrow if you know you're going to be on the ocean. So once you start understanding it and you want to do that, by all means, take the keys of Lamborghini and rev her up. I'll let that be your decision, okay?
Okay.
Okay. That's with the rest of you too. Same with the paladin spells. Same with whatever you guys want to do. Jeremy, you and Sean, you know how the system works. Just bite off what you can chew, okay? All right.
So I think I've still got the same spell list I had when I first started.
I know. And a lot of times I'll make it like that too. It's just it's a little bit fun and puts more into the selection, So, as he is standing there, he doesn't part the hair again. He just kind of moves around stoically, and he takes a step up, and he says in a very low and warm voice, "Welcome, all of you, to the Sanctuary of Wrath. Tanemeh awaits inside. Please, follow me." And as he turns around, he grabs this large wooden slide and slides it out of the door. It takes what seems to be every bit of his strength. And as he does do that, and he moves it over to the side, and it goes into these other large columns and captures that slider, he has these large brass rings that seem to be into the mouth and jaws of dragons that are depicted on stone. As he grabs onto the bronze ring with his big, large hands, begins to hit his hooves on the stone ground and pull the doors back and open for you all. And when you look inside, it is beautiful in there. It is all well kept. It is manicured, sand spots that is perfectly raked, miniature cherry blossom trees, passive streams that run off from the natural water coming off the mountain in the wintertime that have normal, humbly made bridges over top of them, and one large wooden spire that stands up of 2 poles that has some kind of what would be an oriental symbol of some kind. This thing seems to be at least 70, 80, 90 foot up in the sky. Okay. There are several people sitting around in groups talking about things and discussing, and you do hear the like stuff from other people practicing martial arts and things in this place. At that point, he pulls the door open and puts his hand up for you all and stands by the door waiting for you all to walk past him so he can shut the doors behind you. What is everybody doing?
I walk in.
Okay, as you walk in, Jeremy, you headed in?
Yeah, he looked like he is giving Caliban a side eye. Caliban said he wasn't welcomed in here before.
Yet, because you can't see his eyes. The hair's over him. And you notice Caliban is kind of more to the back of the group. He's wanting to go last to kind of see what happens here. Okay. As everyone else, Sean, what about
Actually,
your character?
Caliban, you might want to go in. I have to have a private word with Yakon-ru here. Just keep close to them. You'll be fine.
Okay. As you say that to him, Yakon looks and gives you a nod of acknowledgement, and he says, and looks forward and doesn't look at Caliban. Caliban fully expects grief or something about walking past the threshold. But strangely, after Sade says this, the large humanoid doesn't move towards him, and Caliban's able to walk right past, looking at him, almost like the guards in England that have to stand straight, and people go up and mess with him, but they don't do anything. He's almost looking at a Yakon-ru like that, like he's walking past. As you all go in, Yakon begins to shut the doors with Sade standing beside him just inside the entranceway. As you all make your way away from them, you see a small figure approach from over top of one of these homemade bridges. It is the small goblinoid robed form of Tanemeh. Tanemeh. Okay, and here's what's funny. When this character was created, me and Danny did this damn near 2 years ago when Tanemeh was first created. His name was that because he wasn't impressed with anything. Everything he saw, he's like, meh, meh. And that's why the end of his name is MEH. That's how he got the name. And we didn't even think about it until later. But Yoda looks like this guy. You can't help it. A small goblin monk character. It's fucking Yoda. and we always try to stay away from things that are similar to other shit. You know what I mean? But if you understood the whole story of Tanemeh and why he is what he is and things of that nature, there is no other way to do it. So I will be doing an accent with this particular fella. Try not to judge me too harshly. Who all seen the movie Big Trouble in Little China? Yes? Lopan. He is going to try to sound like Lopan. Haha, Mr. Burton. So that's what we're going to do here. Take it for what it is. So, as this small figure approaches, always hands behind himself like a tutor. Okay? I'm talking short. Like, not even quite 3 foot tall. Okay? And comes walking up. Now, he moves very swift and very militantly styled. There's an old movie called The Adventures of Remo Williams. And he had a mentor that taught him how to do shit. And I see him moving around like that. He is extraordinarily graceful. He will every once in a while pluck a snowflake out of the air. He moves with effortless. Okay? And as he's walking up through the courtyard, to his right is Dreiden, the Lion Felidae. And you can see him saying words, and the two stop. Tanemeh stops first, about probably 20 foot from you all, and turns as if he wants to have words with Dreiden, and he's waiting for Dreiden to back up and greet him. Dreiden stops for a minute, looks back around, and comes back around. The two talk and are mumbling something to one another. You can hear You can hear Dreiden just kind of nod, and they look up over, and they're looking at Caliban. Okay? He quickly holds his hand out and extends it in Caliban's direction. And you hear a voice come out from the two. It says, "You can come in." And that's all he says. He spins on his heel. He turns around. He goes, "Show them way into the main area. I will await you there." Turns around and begins to walk off instead of greeting everyone, he's getting some preparations made. Dreiden walks up to you all and says, thank you for coming. He says, is this everybody? He's talking to you, Merc.
Not quite. We have a straggler or two that may not be able to join us this evening.
And who are the stragglers? He goes, and who are the stragglers? Yeah.
One would be Yakon, but I don't believe he's coming with us. The other would be Bastille.
I believe those two have other plans, as it were. I think this is all of what. I think this is all that will be needed. Come join us. So as he turns and he walks, you're going over a small bridge. These things are very elegantly carved, and the wood is so old that the hands on it has made it smooth like glass. Okay. Omi, you can't help but notice how striking this place is, how everything is meticulously done. Nothing is out of place or out of order. And as you guys walk over this one bridge, you see Tanemeh standing in the center of this stone platform that seems to be maybe like 40 foot wide by 40 foot wide circle, like a 30-foot, circle. And it's raised just slightly above the rest of the terrain here. This place is carved out of straight up mountain rock. So the floors in a lot of these temples and things look like the actual mountain ground, like granite and stone and shit. And it's just been polished and walked over so many times it's all smooth like river stones in places. Okay. And as he stands in the middle of this place, he has his hands back and he has that cocky look and one eyebrow up and he looks over the group of you. He says, so, he goes, welcome to the Sanctuary of Wrath. I am Tanemeh. How do you feel? And he looks at you, Brahmas. Huh? How do you feel? Which seems to be a very strange open-ended question.
Depends. You want to know how I feel inside? How I feel outside.
Well, if you feel inside, that would suffice. How do you feel?
I feel curious. I feel worrisome.
Curious? And what was that other one?
Worrisome.
Worrisome. Oh, yes, worries. We all have those. He goes, and you? There are many in there. And he's talking to you, Oma. He says, you don't seem as tired as the others. He smiles, you showed up prepared. You guys should take a note from her. This is fantastic. He looks around a little bit more. He's looking at Silouan and looking at what she's made. He goes, bravery. Dressing up is the thing you don't like the most. It's like a costume party at you. Look at you. And he walks a circle around her and she goes, excuse me? She goes, I have you know that I made this by myself. He goes, yeah, you made. It's great. Super. He looks at her and he goes, she's got nothing on. She's not the one breathing heavy. You are. He smiles and points to Silouan because she's got all that armor on she made. She just kind of buttons up and she goes, I'm just saying this out of game, guys. I don't like him. That's exactly what she says. Tamara actually greets him and is quite elegant about it. Would you please, Sean, roll me a d20 and a d6 to see her charisma check on this?
7 total.
She tries to greet him the best she can because she's very good at etiquette and things like that. This is something as an ambassador of Tordain, of the swords of the white swords of the north. she's usually very good at. She finds herself stumbling over her words, because every time he goes to say something or gets on some kind of thought, he interrupts her and throws her for loops sideways, left and right. It's this ridiculous mess of her trying to be civil with this. After about 2 or 3 minutes of that, Tamara kind of whispers over to Silwyn, I don't know if I like him either. Okay. I'm getting messages here. Let's see what we got here. Yep, good deal. Okay. So, with that, Yakon-ru walks up along here and takes his stance to the other side of Tanemeh in this circle. And he says, she will be joining us shortly, Master. And he goes, good. It's never too late for training, even when the sun goes down. Light the flames. He says like that. And there are these you know how outside the Asian restaurants, there's this hybrid lion, dragon-like creature. Usually there's statues of them outside. Well, there's 4 of those in here. There's 2 facing the place that Tanemeh calls his place. And there are 2 facing the entrance that you came in under. There are some other people that are here trained to go around with torches and light fires. There seems like there's places in their mouths that hold fires to illuminate the night. Okay, so we can see and even be out here if it gets a little bit dark. Okay, so with that, Tanemeh stands back outside of the circle, and Dreiden steps up and begins to address the whole group. Okay, Caliban looks uncomfortable. He walks back and forth, just kind of looking left and right. He's looking down at the stone. There's a tree over there, and he grabs one of the pieces off of it and is looking at the petals of it and looking around, smells it, and drops it. He's just really studying this place up. And you can tell he's got a chip on his shoulder. Dreiden says, so Bastille has told me that you guys plan to go to the Crescent Cradle in the hopes of fighting what is a large bird from ancient times. Is this accurate? Anyone from the group can address him. So in this case, it's going to either be Oma or Merc.
That's true.
And of the creatures there, are you familiar with displacer beasts? If you don't know if you are or not, roll a history check, and I'll tell you if you know what a displacer beast is or if you've ever fought one.
Okay.
It's going to take a 16 or higher to know something about them.
Roll
No,
a
I didn't get
15
it.
for Tamara.
Okay. Silwyn, roll 1 for her with disadvantage, Jeremy. And what'd you get, Oma?
11.
None of you guys really have a good answer unless Silwyn pulls one out of the pocket here. No,
That's worse than that one.
dude, it's a fuck me then. On her dice, that says fuck me on there. That's good. Okay. Have you ever seen that dice she's got, Alex?
No.
For a 1, instead of a 1 on it, it says fuck me, and then on where the 20's at, it's taken off and it says fuck you. That's the way she's got her twins. It's pretty cool. It's pretty good.
Nice.
So, no one seems to know what the hell a displacer beast is. So play dumb, guys, if you really do. Dreiden explains. He goes, through our archives of knowledge, it came to our attention that these predatory creatures live in the dense jungles of the Crescent Cradle. You would be wise to be very careful around them. They can appear to be somewhere far away from where they actually are. The reason I've brought you here is I've recently been studying Jun Shi, an ancient and lost art known only to my Felidae people and Junshi himself. As he's walking back and forth and talking to you guys, he says, Master Tanemeh has helped me to unlock the secrets of this this forgotten book. He says within it, I think is something that can help prepare you for fighting the creature. Yakon comes to stand over by Dreiden, and Dreiden looks up at the Yakon-ru, and Dreiden looks up at the large creature and goes, "Are you ready?" He goes, He just kind of grunts, and he goes over and he sits down on the edge of the circle underneath of the cherry blossom tree. Okay? And as he sits down and he closes his eyes, and it almost looks like someone has a burst of air underneath him as his shirt bellows and his hair brushes out of his eyes, and you can see that his eyes are white. Yakon appears to possibly be blind. And as he sits there and he begins to do that chant, that low humming chant that you hear people do, where there's like 3 or 4 different pitches, that that fun thing, right? He begins to do a very deep and robust version of that. As he does, I would like to share with you guys a map, if that's okay. You guys with it?
Yep.
Okay, just a moment. Let's go share screen. I want to share sound. And here we are. So let me see if I can get this to go down here. There we go. Okay. So, just a moment. Dun, 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 dun. By the way, you can tell me what you think of the map. I love it. Just a minute here. This is the stone circle you guys find yourself in. And this will be the first time we've done a 3D map, so let me take you on a little tour real quick, and I'll explain to you how these work. Alex, Sean, you guys haven't seen these yet, and I hope you enjoy this. This is going to be a fun thing for us to do. So, this is all three-dimensional now. All right. So I've got all of our characters. I'll also be placing the names on your characters as well. Over here's Tanemeh. And he is joined by Yakon at his side. As you can see, it's lightly snowing right now. Okay? Everyone has their characters. There's Caliban and everybody. I can scroll out. This is a big map. There's a lot of stuff here. These are the lion statues that have the flames in their mouths. Okay? This is the main entranceway we came in that had the large arch that was up into the air, like 80 or so foot. These are the little land bridges I'm talking about that we walked over. The different trees and things that are in this place. And here's what's really cool. You can only see so much of this map from a top view, right? But what if you're climbing in this tree? Or what if you want to run underneath this canopy here and you want to know what's underneath that? Well, what's great about this is I created this map from scratch myself using a program that I downloaded. Okay? So, check this out. It wasn't very much. It didn't cost very much at all, but what I can do with it is I can create 3D maps. This is just the aerial view of it. Over here to the side, folks, are the three-dimensional pictures of the map.
Wow.
So if you want to know that's actually how tall this thing is.
Huh.
This is the bridge we walked over. Okay? There's your stone lions right here, facing off into the sunset. This is the actual how deep the water is running around us. Okay? And I've got 3 different, here's this middle view of where we're standing right now.
Okay.
And I've got one more image of it right here, a sky view. We walked in coming over this bridge right here. We're now in the center.
Wow.
Yeah. So talk about immersion, right? So at any time when you guys want to do some stuff that maybe we can't tell from the other map, I just scroll over here to the side and we discuss it. Now, there's things like the stone ring and some of the trees that I added in using my own graphics, but for the most part, fundamentally, this is the exact same map. For instance, see these stone pyres over here?
Mhm.
This is something where Dreiden trains the martial arts move called the Kick of the Sun and Moon. And in training, he had to stand on this tallest spire and follow the sun rise and the sun set all day long with one leg standing on one foot. And until he could do that, he wasn't able to use that martial arts move in combat. And this is where he trained for that move. Now, there's another good shot of it right here. And you can see how tall it is and the different spires and how hard it'd be to jump and climb up this. Whereas from an overview map, this is all you see. So that's why the three-dimensional map helps in a lot of ways. Okay? So, anyone have any questions about it or anything you would change a little bit, or is everybody good?
Good. That's really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, with that, Sean, you may do what you want to or enter at any time. You just let us know. I'm going to go ahead and continue with some things. You can show up when you'd like to, okay? Okay, with Yakon's character. Yakon travels back here underneath of the cherry blossom tree. That is three-dimensional. He can actually get underneath of it, and the shadows go over him. And as he squats down and begins this chant, his eyes light up just a little bit with a very dim glow, and some things spring forth from him. And they look like clones of him. 6 of them to be precise.
Wow.
And they all stand at Tanemeh's side, as he did only just a few moments ago. Okay? This is what he looks like when he's fully standing. And these are spiritual versions of himself. So he's one of the abilities Yakon has as a Wujin sorcerer, which is what he actually is. He's not a fighter. He can make duplicates of himself that uses his magic points as their hit points. And he can do this. This is a chi ability that he has. It's very, very cool. And Tanemeh would go ahead and take his leave after that. And stand back here beside Yakon and help him channel his energy and stay focused on the task at hand. Dreiden would be mentioning to all of us that these images of Yakon-ru are simulations of what the Displacer Beast will be able to do to you guys in the jungles of the Crescent Cradle. Okay? They are illusions with one of them being real. You have to learn how to fight something that possibly you won't be able to see. And Yakon has offered to help guide you all through this. With that, Dreiden goes and takes the other side of Yakon and stands back here out of sight and leaves the group of you. I'm not forgetting anyone, am I? That's everybody, correct? Okay. And Tanemeh speaks up and says, do your best. Make mistakes. Learn from them. That's why we're here. Be good. He says like that. With that, Sean, would you like to enter?
Nope, not yet.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is, if you guys want to, it's 9:30 now. We can roll some initiative and start getting the order down and do a couple rounds of this, or what you guys want to do.
So we'll wait until everybody's around to do the initiative.
Yeah.
You want to? Okay. Well, then what we'll do is, for tonight, we'll close on that then. And then whenever, well, that's the thing. They're not going to be here next week either.
Oh.
Remember, that's why we're kind of, that's why you're doing Tamara, and that's why you're doing Silouan, is because they're not going to be here this week or next week.
Speaking of next week, are we playing on Father's Day?
Is that Sunday?
Yes.
Oh, actually, no, I didn't. I forgot that was going to be Father's Day. Probably not then. Probably not.
Okay.
So if everyone's up for doing it on a different night or just skipping that week, that's perfectly fine. And we'll discuss this more after the episode tonight, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I forget holidays. It's ridiculous, man. I get crate and shit and I don't even think. Such a selfless guy. I don't even know when Father's Day is. Wow. So, with that, you guys want to go ahead and do a little bit more? Or you want to call it quits for tonight?
I think this is a good setup for the next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
5 a.m. comes early.
Okay. So with that, I'll go ahead and we'll say our goodbyes. Let me stop my share screen. Stop share. Okay. And then we'll bullshit for 5 minutes after we end the video, and we'll jump right into this next time. So, and this, I think this will be good for everybody. Simulating what Displacer Beasts can actually do here. They're going to try to give us a little bit of insight on that. And hopefully that'll carry over in case we run into those bastards. And it's not guaranteed that we will, but anything could help, right? So with that, once again, I'm Brian. We're finally joined by Alex, Sean, and Jeremy saying thanks for tuning in, and we will check you guys out. If not Father's Day, the next one. So take care, everyone. We'll see you then.